Welcome to the show, everybody. How's your day going? Adam Schefter. Yeah. Now, this means nothing right now, but it is good news. If you didn't see the news yesterday, good God, people. Panthers expected to interview Eagles offensive coordinator Brian Johnson for their head coaching job per a source. It's a beautiful thing. You know, sometimes you get blessed in life, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I don't think he's going to get the gig. How do you hire him? How do you hire him right now? How do you hire him? You don't hire him. That's the thing. It's nice that he's getting consideration. My hopes aren't too far up there. However, I did put out there on social media yesterday, just I lavished praise on Brian Johnson, and I tagged the Panthers in it, just hoping they'd see it. You know, I don't think I have that kind of pull, but I took a shot. Whatever. Brian Johnson, we see it right there. The Panthers have interest, according to Adam Schefter. We'll talk about that as to whether or not it's a serious thing or not. Flyers get a win in the shootout last night. Sixers lose without Joel Embiid. In overtime, Tyrese Maxey fouls out. Whatever. And Brian Johnson does address the media yesterday to talk about the Eagles. He's talked about a couple of things. One, the interview process. He's got no comment on it. 100% of the focus. We'll let you hear him. Also, we'll let you hear the line of questioning he received about it. We'll also talk about the injury updates, if any. Brian Johnson just basically made it seem like everybody's playing. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts with his finger, and Devontae Smith coming back from injury as well. So we'll let you hear from Brian Johnson on that. And then finally, what needs to happen against the Buccaneers in order to win that game? One of the things that he got into was the idea of stopping the blitz, unlike they were able to do against the New York Giants in Week 18. And the Buccaneers, I think, are the third most blitzing team in the NFL. Second is the New York Giants. So, yeah, it's not going to be great. If you're struggling right now at the end of the season to be picking up blitzes, that is going to be an issue for your quarterback who's not going to get comfortable in that pocket. And certainly an offensive line that, although they have ended the season as the highest rated offensive line by Pro Football Focus, it doesn't look like the highest rated offensive line in the NFL. So we'll cover all that and more on today's program. And Thomas R. Peterson returns to the show. Good friend of the show, buddy of mine. Lives all the way out there in a little country called Denmark, as he refers to it as the DK. I never heard of it as the DK. But Thomas does a phenomenal job of breaking down the Eagles for you on social media. This guy is a huge football fan. We haven't had him on at all this season, just trying to line up schedules and all that. After all, he is in Denmark. But we had a chance to meet after last football season. And I'm going to tell you right now, he was in the States. Me, him, Vince Quinn, if you know Vince Quinn, of course, from Bell and the Birdman podcast. Vince, a buddy of mine as well. We went out, had lunch, had a good time. And this guy, when I tell you he loves football, this is a guy, and I think I told the story before, that we're literally just sitting there eating lunch. We're talking, about life, not even talking about football. And he picks up his phone at one point, and he's just like, oh, my God, look at this. And he's just looking at players getting ready for the combine, like their workout routines, running route trees. And all. He's like, look at this. Look at the sharp angle. Look at the sharp cut right here. Look at the sharp. And I'm like, good God, man. I'm just trying to enjoy my wings. That kind of thing. The man loves football. So Thomas R. Peterson will be joining the show coming up momentarily. We talk about Brian Johnson. We talk about Nick Sirianni. We talk about the flaws of the offense, the flaws of the defense, any differences in defense with Matt Patricia taking over with 4 weeks left in the season, and how bonkers it was. Bonkers that he took over when he did with just 4 games left in the season. So all that and more on the Farley Show. Thanks for joining me. Nice to have you along for the ride. First and foremost, once again, here it is from Brian Johnson, from Adam Schefter on Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson yesterday, this press conference when he was asked about, hey, there's a report out there about you being interviewed for the Panthers job. Your thoughts? Any comment on that?
Yeah, I have no comment. All of my focus is about this week. And, we got a great opportunity with a special group of people to go out there and put on a great performance against Tampa Bay, and that's where all of our focus and energy is at the moment.
So if you have an interview though, that wouldn't necessarily mean the focus would be 100%, right? I mean, if the interview happens this weekend, or
yeah, all my focus, Jeff, is about this playoff game. Okay. and putting everybody in position. To go out there and put on a great performance on Monday night.
First of all, I love the line of questioning. Yeah, but if you interview, that means you're not 100%. You're maybe only 75% focused on that. This is what happens. This is the business. I have no problem with it. This is how it works. Unfortunately, it's how it works, but it's how it works. I wish in a perfect world, you'd had to wait till after the Super Bowl to start making phone calls. Everybody, same platform, same level. That's what you had to do. Now, in this day and age, though, it's kind of hard to monitor when you have text messaging and everything. It's so easy to communicate. Can't monitor as closely. So I understand it, but this is the nature of the business. This is what happens. Just hopefully it doesn't go as horribly as it did with the Jonathan Gannon process at the end of the last year. There was some tampering going on there and potentially cost the Eagles Vic Fangio as well. So that's not great. Not great. Not ideal. Not for it. But I am for the idea of any other team kicking the tires on Brian Johnson and possibly, potentially, maybe, although unlikely, taking him off the Eagles' hands. Because here's what I have noticed from Brian Johnson. And this even goes beyond the Derek Gunn report of the Eagles offense becoming predictable and other people focusing in on how predictable the Eagles offense has been. And Christian McCaffrey being on the Manning cast, talking about literally calling out the plays for the Eagles before they ran them. And then Nick Sirianni, when he was asked about it, said, well, Christian McCaffrey's a brilliant guy. It takes a brilliant guy to crack this code kind of thing. It's like, yeah, not really. Every cliche that you've heard from any casual Eagles fan even is true. Eagles run tight end screens out the wazoo. The Eagles refer to that or use that as their bread and butter when simply running the football behind this offensive line should be their bread and butter. The Eagles do not throw to running backs nearly enough, and that was a problem last year, and it is once again this year. The check down play just doesn't exist in Jalen Hurts' mind and in Brian Johnson's mind and overall the game plan and scheme that Nick Sirianni has here. And throwing the football is something that the Eagles just love doing, and it's something that Jeffrey Lurie has without question fallen in love with. What bothers me the most, and we get into this conversation with Thomas Peterson. I was talking about it yesterday with Dan Cilio on his show on Jacob Media. And what has been so mind-numbing to me is that the Eagles make a commitment to doing something before they know it's going to work with great regularity. So they make this commitment to throwing the football, and they say, we're not just going to win, we're going to win our way. Well, what about matchups? What about game planning to exploit another team's weakness? What about game planning to use and abuse what should be your bread and butter, which is running the football? When you have an offensive line like this, and you have a running back like DeAndre Swift, and you have a decent backup in a guy like Kenny Gainwell, why aren't you running and a guy that had playoff success last year in Kenny Gainwell, why aren't you running the football? Why aren't you committing to running the football? And don't give me the Eagles are like 4th in attempts or 7th in attempts in the NFL. We got tush pushes, we got quarterback runs. They all count as runs. I'm talking about running the ball with a running back and making that kind of commitment. And how many times do we see them have success where they shift to doing it and then all of a sudden they control the game? And if they would have done that from jump, they wouldn't be in the predicament where they got to start running the football in the second half to try to reestablish any momentum. That's another thing that Brian Johnson got into yesterday. It's like, hey, what do you need to do? What do you need to do to get things going for yourself in this Tampa Bay Buccaneers game? Apparently first downs are good. Take a listen. I think this is this is him on first down.
It's just, consistent first downs, right? First downs, explosive plays, like those are the things that get you going. And just being able to manage those situations. You look at, 2 weeks ago we had a 3rd and 2 to start the game and we didn't convert. And then we get a first down on the last week, and then we don't convert after the first down. So we have to start fast. We got to make sure that we get the guys into a great rhythm early on and put them in a position to go out there and execute.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. So let me just see if I get this straight. First downs in football are good? We got to get them first downs. Yeah, okay. It's like, hey, what do you need to do? And this is actually an honest question I asked Andy Reid one time. What does the team need to do to convert on 3rd downs? Convert them. Thanks. So you mean getting first downs is good? Thank you for that explanation. Appreciate it. Brian Johnson is now him. That is in terms of press conferences, not in terms of overall success in the NFL. Let's not get crazy here. But to me, that's a non-answer. How are you getting those first downs? We're going to throw the football. Maybe that's not the best option. How are you coaching Jalen Hurts to be a better quarterback? That question wasn't asked yesterday. He talked about how Jalen Hurts has played some clean football over the last couple of games here. Did throw another interception against the Giants. We're not going to get answers for this football team. And here's the thing. And this is one of the things that I hate. Honestly, I hate about the NFL. I hate about football in general. This one thing I hate. All the BS that goes along with it. All the talking. And I understand, yes, and I always say it gives you a window into what they're thinking, gives you a window into their mindset, and that's all good. However, when you're struggling, like the Eagles have been struggling over the last 6 weeks of this season, and they make a drastic change, the talk matters less. Because you're not going to give me a substantial answer as to what direction this team is going to go in and how you plan on going in a better direction. The only thing that matters is play. And unfortunately, we only get to see them play once a week. So everything else is just talk. And then finally on the seventh day, we get to watch a football game. 6 days of BS. And then the seventh day, you see an actual football game and you see what direction they went in and what they tried to do, to improve upon the struggles that they had. Is Jalen Hurts going to start checking down on running backs more and seeing if he could get yards that way? Is his offensive line going to pick up the blitz against the Todd Bowles defense that has in the past given Jalen Hurts issues? We all know the famous soundbite, can't read anything. Now there's another opportunity again in Tampa. I mean, geez, talk about a regression. Now you're back in Tampa. You're back on the road in the playoffs. You were in the Super Bowl last year. I want to see what this Eagles team is going to do, and we're not going to have any substantial answers until we actually watch them play football again. And that, unfortunately, is not till Monday. It is an unbelievable downfall that the Eagles have had at the end of this season. And I've thought about other teams. What got brought up was 1994 Rich Kotite, where they were 7-2. Rich Kotite's like, perhaps we should talk about a contract extension. And they lost 7 in a row. They weren't coming off a Super Bowl appearance. They weren't a 10-1 football team. They weren't 10-1 the year before. And then it all fell apart. They didn't have the young upcoming quarterback like Jalen Hurts. They didn't have this offensive line. They didn't fire the defensive coordinator with 4 weeks left, 4 games left in the season. It is a totally different animal because the expectations were so high with this football team. And those expectations were being met in terms of the record. But as I've said throughout the year, maybe the Miami Dolphins game is the only exception. But I never really looked at this football team like they were going to the Super Bowl. They had too many flaws. They had scratched and clawed their way to too many games. And I did go back, and I've mentioned this before, but I did go back and I listened to a lot of these guys talk after that Patriots game to open the season. And they're talking about, you can't play like that against a better opponent. You're not going to come away with a win. Well, turned out to be true when you face those better opponents. Miami's the exception. Buffalo had just changed their offensive coordinator. They were able to eke that game out in overtime. They lose to San Francisco. They lose to Dallas in Dallas. And then we all know that they started playing down to opponents left and right after that. And you say play down to them. I say play down to those opponents. Like Seattle, like the Cardinals, like the Giants. In both games, really. Well, they lost. They got blown out of the water. But you watch this team play, and they just don't have that gear anymore. Of the second half push, where you make an adjustment defensively, you do something a little bit different offensively, and then all of a sudden you start having that success. That next gear that the Eagles had in Tampa Bay when they beat the Buccaneers in week 3, that gear that they had when they beat the Vikings in week 2, where they just took over and started running the football, when they did that in the second half against the Patriots earlier in the season. That gear that they've been able to rely on, it just hasn't been there. They'll come up with the big play. They'll get the bounce that goes their way. I'll reference it again. The forearm of Reed Blankenship under Terry McLaurin in week 4. They'll get that kind of break in a game, and then everything starts to go their way, and they start to take over. They take control. They get those first downs. They stop those blitzes. And that gear has not been there. here at the end of the season. Dallas Goedert was on WIP yesterday, tried tiptoeing back his comments about how, I think when we made the playoffs, we were just good to go. I think when they made the playoffs, they were shot. I had this thought the other day. We didn't refer to that stretch of games as the gauntlet for nothing. It wasn't just winning those games during that stretch. It was surviving and having enough left over to still be a good football team by the end of the year. This isn't an excuse, by the way. It's more of an indictment that they weren't in shape enough. They weren't ready physically to be playing those games, maybe because of the lax schedule. Maybe the reason they even won a couple of those games was because they didn't really practice hard at the beginning of the year, so they had a little energy left over. That's another theory you could throw out there, but they just didn't look ready. It wasn't just about getting through the gauntlet and just be like, well, that was rough. All right, feel great now. Let's roll through the rest of the schedule. No, they got through the gauntlet, and they're bleeding. Guys are injured. Guys had surgery. They weren't ready for the last 4 games of the season after that. They weren't even ready for Seattle. You can make an easy argument. The game they weren't ready for above all else was Seattle because that's when officially they changed play callers defensively. They got through it, but man, it was like guys were missing limbs going into those 4 games. Oh, they're supposed to be easy because of the bottom tier opponents. Well, you've just been put through the ringer, and you didn't necessarily come out on the other side of that fresh. So that was part of the mindset that Dallas Goedert was getting into. It's like, yeah, get through it, and then you have those 4 games against, everyone saying you're going to win those games. It's not as easy as it looks for some people, unfortunately. So that was my 2 cents on what Goedert had to say yesterday. But getting it to the point that they're at now, they just look like a team that is drastically underprepared. Drastically underprepared. Now they're only going into the playoffs against a very, very hungry team. Oh, they really struggled against the Panthers in Week 18. Yeah, they did. They also went into the Lambeau and won. 31 points in Lambeau? Not too shabby. As far as whether or not you're going to have a fresh roster, a healthy roster, Brian Johnson was asked about the status of A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, and Devontae Smith. And what I got out of this answer was these guys are playing. Are you kidding me? It's a playoff game. They're going to be ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, we always take into consideration the health of our players, in terms of getting ready to go game plan and go out there and put a great performance. But I think, at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. We play these 17 regular season games for this opportunity, right? And I think everybody understands this is the only opportunity that matters right now. And it's about us going out there and executing and having a great plan, having a great sense of urgency, having great detail. Because when you're in a single elimination tournament, this is it. This is the end of the road. You have to go out there and put your best foot forward or it's over. And I think everybody realizes that urgency to go out there and get that done.
The last line there, everyone realizes that urgency means everybody's playing. I don't know about Cam Jurgens. I would assume he's going to play. But that last line there is realizing the urgency. It's like when we go through the regular season and a guy misses a game randomly or he hurt his ankle during practice or whatever the case may be. What always gets, well, it was a playoff game. Will they play? Oh, yeah, they play. Probably play. That kind of thing. It's a playoff game. They're playing. I think Jalen Hurts, I don't know. I don't even want to go there, but I think Jalen Hurts have a much more serious problem than dislocating his finger, having it pop back into place, and then having an extra day for it to recover. So that's where I think the Eagles are at. I expect Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, Cam Jurgens. I expect them all to play. Darius Slay, I expect him to play. Avonte Maddox still working his way back, getting into game shape and all that stuff. He's going to play. Zach Cunningham, going to play. You're in the tournament, as they say, and Brian Johnson pointed out yesterday. You're in the tournament. Everything goes. Anything goes. You're out there playing, making plays for this football team. And hopefully, this would be nice too. The coaches do that thing where they put them in the right position to make a play. And that's what we'll hope for. That's what we'll dream for. Something else that came out from the news and notes of the NFL yesterday, another thing from Adam Schefter after he had put out there that after Shefty put it out there that Brian Johnson was going to be interviewed or they have interest from the Carolina Panthers in Brian Johnson. Adam Schefter also put this out there. Eagles assistant general manager Alec Hallaby is interviewing for the Commanders GM job. This was yesterday. And tomorrow, Friday, he's going to be interviewing with the Carolina Panthers. Panthers been especially eyeing Halaby for quite some time now. Really? Now, when you're assistant GM in Philadelphia, it's more like the assistant to the regional GM. That's more of the role, to be more accurate here. But this has been a guy that has been a huge part of the analytic department. He and Julian Lurie have been kind of heading up that operation. So when we talk about the analytic department for the Philadelphia Eagles, Halaby is one of the guys that we're mainly talking about. If he moves on, it'll be somebody else coming up. But make no mistake about it, probably more room for Julian to dissect other things. But it's going to be an interesting transition here if you do see that change made in the upper management role with Halaby leaving. If it is true, look, 2 teams kicking the tires on him already. Interesting. The note that Shefty threw in there about the Panthers being interested in Halaby and eyeing him for quite some time is an interesting thing as well. We know through every season there's going to be change from one season to another. We get that. These are important roles to the Eagles. I don't think Brian Johnson is going anywhere in a promotional sense. I don't think he is going to be going from a struggle-filled season with the Eagles offense to all of it with these offensive weapons, mind you, then going somewhere else as a head coach. I don't see that happening. I think the next move Brian Johnson makes is a step back to a quarterbacks coach or maybe an offensive consultant with maybe a head coaching assistant type of role, that kind of thing, assistant to the head coach, assistant head coach, that kind of thing. But I don't think he's going to have the title of an offensive coordinator after this season. Going into this game, I still don't feel good about the Eagles taking on the Buccaneers. And maybe this is exactly what the team needed, to have people really doubt them when it matters, not just at the end of the season, but really doubt them. In the Paulie Pom-Poms world, that's what I'm hoping for. But like I said, I don't see myself talking myself into that come Monday morning. Too much turmoil, and I don't believe in the proverbial playoff switch that gets flipped time and time again that people reference. So interesting things could be changing here with the Eagles, most notably when it comes to the offensive coordinator position and also when it comes to the assistant to the general manager, with Alec Halaby getting an interview with the Panthers and also the Commanders. Commanders were yesterday. Panthers are tomorrow. Tomorrow on the show, Thomas R. Peterson is about to be on with us. Tomorrow on the show, Dr. Joel Fish will be on the program to talk about the psychology of a slump. What could be going on in the Eagles' mind? Also today, Nick Sirianni will be addressing the media, and Jalen Hurts will be addressing the media as well. I look forward to what they have to say. Look forward to hearing an update on Jalen Hurts' finger. I'm going to go ahead and make this. I did a bingo card for A.J. Brown. I'm going to put one thing on a bingo card for Jalen Hurts today, and that's the words, good enough. How's the finger? Good enough. We'll see. That's where I'm going to be when it comes to Jalen Hurts. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk to our friend all the way from Denmark, Thomas R. Peterson, to talk all things Eagles. Social media, and you're an Eagles fan, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not a big enough Eagles fan. Thomas R. Peterson joining us all the way from the DK, Denmark.
DK, the Donkey Kong.
As it's known by the United Nations, the Donkey Kong. Thomas, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. Surprisingly, although if it sounds like all Philadelphia sports is tearing apart. But yeah, I found some good therapy here in buying a house and completely renovating it. So I got my mind on so many other things in the Eagles.
Good for you.
Yeah, good for me. It's a good time. Good timing.
Yeah, to have that distraction. Yet I know I'm not completely renovating the house I moved into a year ago, almost exactly. But you showed me some pictures of you and what you're doing there. Oh yeah, good God, man, good God, you are taking on a task. There's chisels involved. There's like, I don't know if you're carving the next statue David, like the next Michelangelo. I don't know what, but man, you are going to town on that house.
Absolutely. We're tearing everything down to, hopefully make it look better at some point.
Ooh, I just have the perfect segue. So do you tear down the Eagles after this season if they lose to the Buccaneers? Sorry, I apologize.
I think unlike the Eagles, my house actually has more wrinkles to it. I think there's more detail in this house than there is in Nick Sirianni's playbook. I think my house adjusts more to weather than the Eagles defense does to offenses. I don't know what to go with this. I mean,
No, this is perfect. Let's keep riffing. Now all of a sudden we're an improv class. No. Wait, all right. So let's talk about this for them. Let's focus on the defensive side of the football first.
Yeah.
Okay. This is driving me crazy. I have this, I don't even think it's that wild of a theory. It's certainly not a hot take by any means. The Eagles looked at the last 4 games of their schedule. They wanted to make a change defensively and said, oh, we could win a couple of these games no matter what we do defensively. Yeah. So have at it. What do you think about that?
I think we should have, it should have been a massive warning for us when we saw Mac Jones and Sam Howell look like Tom Brady for 3 games. Like you go like, oh, they had good games, but it's just every single week they play some random quarterback, whether it's Drew Lock or it's Sam Howell or it's Zach Wilson or insert random. Tyrod Taylor had his best.
Drew Lock.
Tyrod Taylor had his best game of his entire career. He's 32 years old. He's played shit defenses. Like, he had his best statistical game from an EPA standpoint against the Eagles defense. And it's just, I don't know what the Eagles are doing when they're watching film. Like, you go through 17 games of just sitting down and watching tape of like, oh, look at this guy. We got beat here. What are you guys doing later? Because they're sure as hell not talking about how to fix whatever they're looking at in front. It's so weird because it's every single week that you're seeing the same strategies on third down. You're seeing the exact same off coverage looks, no matter what it looks like. They're spinning the safeties in the exact same way. They rarely send pressure. And when they do, it's coming from such a deep angle where they like Kevin Byard, when he blitzes, he just gets to the line of scrimmage before the ball goes off because, simple slant route, you kill the Eagles defense. And it's kind of weird because you have so much talent on the defense. Like, how many pro bowlers or alternate pro bowlers do the Eagles have? It's amazing. I think they had like 6 or 7 pro bowlers and a bunch of other guys, alternate pro bowlers.
I think 6 and 8. 6 pro bowlers. I think it's 8 or 9 alternates. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Including Britton Covey. How about that? Or Covey. Sorry.
Covey. Yeah. It's and I think in the beginning of the season, we kind of make it up to be like the entire secondary was makeshift. Like, they had to rotate everybody in because everybody got injured all the time. Justin Evans missed time, Reed Blankenship missed time, Slame went out, Bradbury went out. So you kind of excuse that with, and Sean Desai, he's a new guy. But looking back at it now, we can just see that it's been the exact same defense over and over. And then on top of that, mid-season, you go from Hassan Reddick said it, when you went from Sean Desai to Matt Patricia's defense, they changed terminology mid-season. They started over from scratch, and it could not have looked any worse. Like, you brought up the last 4 weeks here. They were the third worst EPA per play defense in the last 4 weeks, and they played the Giants twice, Drew Luck, and Kyler Murray and the Cardinals.
And a smattering of Tommy DeVito.
Unbelievable.
It doesn't feel great. So, all right, terminology, and I've noticed the same thing, and my audience is probably sick of hearing me talk about Hassan Reddick and just live on, dine on that for the last 2 weeks. But when it comes to what they're doing schematically, you don't think they're doing much different under Matt Patricia? It's more the terminology, or do you see them doing things even a lot different, a little different than Sean Desai?
I think it looks completely the same. It's
good.
Actually, I think Sean Desai had a couple of games where it looked different as the game went on. Like, you saw the Bills game, for example, had a terrible first half. They came back and they didn't allow a touchdown in the second half. Chiefs game, same thing. Terrible first half, came back and did not allow a single touchdown in the second half. Cowboys game at home. The Eagles won that game. Terrible first half, got back in the second half. I mean, they kept the Cowboys out the end zone. We can discuss a bunch of different things like the Bills game, James Cook drop in the Chiefs game, Marcus Valdes-Scantling drop in the end zone right at the end of that game. There's a lot of things that we can look at that point, but they just had more. They had more things go in their favor when Sean Desai was the defensive coordinator, and a lot of that, it's the NFL, it's football, it's multivariated, but they played with more confidence. They looked better when they play, and I don't know what if that's scheme, probably not. probably was just a matter of the opponents not really making most of a situation. But I think even at 10-1, we're looking at the team saying, wow, there are many cracks in this. I mean, this is such a fragile team. And then they lose one game. At 10-2, things were falling apart already at that point. And now they've lost what 5 out of the last 6?
5 of the last 6. And at 10-3. 10-3. So it can never be said by a fan base again, yeah, but they're 10-3. Because at 10-3, they essentially fired their defensive coordinator.
Yeah, exactly.
and brought in a new defensive play call. So if you're the Eagles, if you're an Eagles fan, you can never say, they're 10-3, they're fine. Because the team themselves panicked like all hell. And to your point, at 10-1, other than the Week 7 win over the Dolphins, which oddly enough was only their second double-digit win of the season and their second of 2 that they had all year. Other than that, I never looked at this team like, oh, they're going to win the Super Bowl, because they never looked like a Super Bowl team. You got to be able to control games start to finish with great regularity like they did in 6 different games last year.
Yeah.
That's a team that you can have confidence in getting to a Super Bowl. This team, and by the way, you also didn't have Jalen Hurts for 2 games last year. This team never gave me that confidence, really, that, oh, they can sustain this success like they did against even the Buccaneers in Week 3 or like they did against the Dolphins in Week 7. They never gave me that kind of boost throughout the year. They always, to your point, showed those cracks more often than not.
Yeah. And I think when we go through the conversation of who's to blame, is it the players or is it the coaching? I think it's you get to a certain point where the players, there are too many talented players not playing well enough to where it just doesn't make sense that it's on the players. You know what I mean? Like if you have, let's say on the Eagles defense, you have 11 players. I think we can pretty reasonably say that 6 of them should be good to above average. And when all of them are failing in each and every situation, Darius Slay playing 15 yards off on 3rd and 1. You have Hassan Reddick dropping into coverage. You have Josh Sweat dropping into coverage. You have blitz schemes that just look random. You have Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham basically tackling each other 5 times per game and missing a shit ton of tackles. It goes to what is your coverage scheme? What is the basic principles of your defense? What is your gap assignment? Because every single NFL player can fill a gap. But if they don't know what to do, if they can't communicate that, and they can't actually have an understanding in between players of who has which responsibility, everybody's going to look like shit. Because guess what? All NFL players are super athletes. So if you're playing a team that is just marginally better coached than you, Cardinals, for example, shit most of the season, but they understand exactly what they're doing in terms of running the football. Connor is a pretty good running back. You get gashed over when you don't know what gaps to hold. I think it's just become more apparent throughout the season that this is yeah, sure, players have bad games, but this is much more of a coaching issue.
So here's what I'll say with the Eagles. And I agree. I look at the coaching more so than even the players on this team. But with the Eagles, and it's very particular because maybe the Cowboys you could look at like this. It's so organizational. Because I don't believe Nick Sirianni made the decision to change defensive coordinators. And to go back to it again with Hassan Reddick, he said the higher-ups. To me, that signifies the front office. That doesn't signify the coaching staff or Nick Sirianni. So I look at the Eagles as an organization, and I feel like the last 6 games of this season really have been an organizational failure for the impact with analytics, how much Jeffrey Lurie stresses that, and how much Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman probably wanted to make the change when it came to who was calling plays defensively. And they really they undervalued the impact it would have with guys talking about the different terminology that you also pointed out. That, we have these 4 games against subpar opponents. We got this. No big deal. Our offense will outscore those opponents. And unfortunately, couldn't be further for the truth.
No, and I just have to look at it as well from the Howie Roseman angle. Like, you put together a roster from last year. I think we can all agree last year the roster was terrific. It was extraordinary.
Yeah.
I think if you asked 100 Eagles fans before this season started, what do you think of the roster right now? I think a lot of them would say this is as good or maybe even better on talent than it was last year. Now, obviously, you wouldn't get the same answer right now based on the results they've had the last 6 weeks. But I think at a certain point throughout the season, Howie Roseman saw exactly everything that we saw in these games as well, that this is not a 10-1, 10-2 type team, 10-3 type team. They have massive flaws. And if you're a GM looking at a head coach who's not doing shit about it, not taking responsibility for it, not calling out defensive coordinators or asking for somewhat of some sort of responsibility. And Nick Sirianni, he's the head coach of the team. He can go to his defensive coordinator and say, "This isn't good enough. We need to do this and this and this," or have some input for the defense. He should be an offensive-minded guy. You should tell them, he should have ideas to what they should be doing. If you're Harry Roseman and you're looking at the talent of the team, and you say, "Do I believe this is good enough for the roster that I created?" Like if I was Harry Roseman, I'll be super pissed that I collected all of this amount of talent and it's being wasted that amount. Of course, you go in and you say we have to make a change. And if the best thing you can come up with is Matt Patricia, because that's the guy you have, that's the team you assemble around you. I get that. It's not. I mean, I don't think anybody would say Matt Patricia is the answer, but what you had before was not the answer. So some change had to be made. And if that's the best you can do in that situation, because your head coach can't take responsibility and can't fix it himself, then what are you going to do? You have to. I mean, I like the fact that they took action. It wasn't the right one, obviously. I think everybody knew that, but
or the right time.
Or the right time, yeah, that as well. But I think if you're looking at it, how Roseman knew they couldn't be going into the playoffs with what they had before. Now, I think nobody's confident with what they have now, but a change had to be made because I think it's just not good enough with the talent of the roster.
I think they looked at the 4 games as if it was preseason to the postseason. It was preseason football. The last 4 games of the schedule to them. We can get them ready in time for the playoffs, and then they didn't expect them to cost a number 1 seed, a number 2 seed, and bump them down to the number 5 seed, unfortunately.
In came Tyrod Taylor.
And then Tyrod Taylor. Dreams, nightmares there with Tyrod Taylor. I look at the Bills, for instance. The Bills recognized a problem with their offense. And they said, we need to make a change. And they made a change. And then they made a change after what, week 10, week 9? And they had time to adjust, and they responded. This team has not done that. Now, their offense, I don't think, underwent the injuries that the Eagles' defense had, not to use it as an excuse, but maybe an explanation and maybe reason to be a little bit more optimistic when the playoffs do start on Monday. But it just seemed like it was a little late in the party to be making that kind of change. I do want to ask you, flip it to the offensive side of things here, because we were joking earlier about Brian Johnson. I did my part. I put out a tweet earlier about possibly how great of an offensive mind he is, just to make the Panthers maybe a little bit more interested. Not that I have that kind of pull, but I can hope. I am dumbfounded with this offense and how much of a regression there has been from Jalen Hurts. When you look at Jalen Hurts, do you put it on him as the individual, or do you put it, like defense, more on the coaching?
I absolutely put it on the coaching, 100%. The offense is, for as bad as the defense looks situationally, the Eagles' offense is. I have no words. I have no words for it. I think it's. Do you remember? Let's go Doug Peterson. Super Bowl season, and then the following 2018, 19, and 20. It just got progressively slower, more difficult to move the ball down the field, and it became predictable. And every single week, you would just be going into games and think this is going to be super hard. They're going to make mistakes. They're not going to move the ball. They're going to be turning the ball over. That's kind of the same feeling I'm getting with the Eagles offense here. I think they've been more so figured out because their defenses are just loading the B gaps. They're just blitzing. They're showing blitz up the B gaps, and then they're doing all sorts of blitzing off of that. And the Eagles O-line, they always adjust in the same way. They slide over to that one side, and they got a free blitzer coming off the edge. They overload the guards. They got a free rusher, Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts goes into panic mode because there's not a single hot read in the Eagles offense, regardless of what's being shown by the defense. And you want to talk about not adjusting your scheme on the defense? How many times were we discussing this 2 years ago with Nick Sirianni when he started? Well, there are no hot reads in this offense. Nick Sirianni has always been telling that after each and every press conference in terms of when he's been asked about it, we need more hot reads in the offense. That's on me. I got to take responsibility for that. We got to get better at that. Well, shit, it's 3 years now, and it's the same thing it's the exact same issue over and over and over, and it's the same 9 plays that they run each and every single game. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows what they're running, and if you look at it statistically, Eagles' EPA per play on offense is really good. It's their top 10 offense. But if you take away the QB sneak, tush push, probably shove, whatever you want to call it, which basically almost always generates either first down or touchdown, you take that away, they're bottom offense because they don't do anything well. What did the Eagles' offense do well, Mark?
No, I was just going to go to it. Last year, I was accused of having a hot take that the Eagles had no true identity. But the reason was because they did everything so well. They could, you just be a running team? We could be a running team today and we'll beat you. You just be a passing team? We'll throw the football and we'll beat you. This year, what is the identity? Because they do no one thing consistently well other than the tush push, but they do they don't throw the ball well all the time. They don't run the ball well all the time. I feel like they always have the ability to run the ball well, but they rarely ever trust it. They don't do it. And the perfect example is the game against the Cardinals where you have DeAndre Swift runs the ball 5 times in the first half. Granted, they didn't run that many plays because they were never on the field, but he only ran the ball 5 times. In one possession in the second half, he ran it 6 times. How does that make any sense whatsoever? Why do they ignore something that they know can be their bread and butter?
Yeah. And that's I think that is the biggest thing to put against Nick Sirianni in terms of why, if you want to make the case of why he shouldn't be back next season as the Eagles head coach, that's it. You don't have an offensive system. You've done the same thing for 3 years. Teams have figured you out. They've done that throughout the entire season. You're doing the exact same thing. The one play that the Eagles are good at is the tush push. That's it.
I was just going to ask you this. What would you do? What would you want to see from Brian Johnson in this game against the Bucs? Because you know that the blitzes are going to be coming like Wink Martindale. So what are you going to do against Todd Bowles and a guy that wants to get back to dominating Jalen Hurts like he did in Jalen Hurts' first playoff game?
I think I'm actually at the point where if the Eagles are going to do well, it's because of the players. The offense is so extremely talented, top to bottom, at every single position. I mean, the Eagles' offensive line is among the best of in the league. And if you want to just take the schematic part away of calling an obvious slow developing play when you have 6 guys at line of scrimmage going to blitz you and you're running that exact same play, and Hurts looks dumbfounded whenever the play goes. I'm like, oh shit, they're bringing pressure. Like, what do you think? I mean, so if you take that part away, player for player, Eagles O-line is among the best. Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, terrific. Hurts, even in the season that he's having right now, and with the what he's being presented from an offensive scheme standpoint, he's still a top 10 quarterback in every single category, like statistically. DeAndre Swift, Pro Bowler, deserved every bit of it. He's massive way, but like I think you could put 4 or 5 wins on him. So every single position they're so good at. And I think no matter what you call, no matter what football play you call, if everybody executes well, it's going to work. The percentage may go down if you call the same play over and over and over because the defenses are going to adjust to it like they're doing to the Eagles right now. But if everybody does their job well, it's going to be successful. And the Eagles are so successful on offense that even if you call the most horseshit high school offense, they're going to make it work because they're good. So I'm not expecting Eagles to do anything against the Bucs that we haven't seen. They're going to call the exact same plays that they've always been calling. It's going to be the same thing as all season. And if they have success, it's because of the players. I think
over.
Right now, yeah, I think
it's
right
over,
now,
isn't it?
I mean, for me, I'm just sitting back every single game, and I'm expecting the exact same thing, and I'm getting the exact same thing. So I'm beyond the point of where I'm like, oh, maybe if they do this, because they're not going to do it. I don't know, man.
No, I hear you. I hear you. So let me ask this. So you don't see them. Let me just get to this part of it. You don't see them beating the Bucs and advancing past the wild card. All right. So looking at it like this, then, where does that put Nick Sirianni? Where are you in the judgment of Nick Sirianni and this coaching staff? They have to win to keep him. They have to be competitive to keep him. If they get blown out, it's a complete clean house. If they lose, does he stay? Coordinators go. Where are you at in that kind of pecking order?
I think it's going to be the exact same situation that they have with Doug Peterson, where Howie Roseman is going to present him a plan to say, if you're going to be the head coach of this team, I'm going to pick the offensive coordinator. I'm going to pick the defensive coordinator. They're going to run their show, and you're not going to have a single say in it. The offensive coordinator is going to do his part, because that's how you lure in an offensive coordinator to the Eagles. That's how you get a top candidate. You say, this is your offense. You do exactly what you want. We'll have discussions, Howie Roseman to offensive coordinator, in terms of what do you need? What players do you need? What talent do you need to get into your offense here? And basically, that is what Doug didn't want, right? Doug didn't want to let go of his coaches that was on his staff. And basically, that's what led to them parting ways. It was kind of a mutual agreement, and that Doug wouldn't say yes or say yes to that situation. I think Nick Sirianni is absolutely every bit of a yes man, to a point where he would absolutely say, yeah, just let me be the head coach of this team. I'll do whatever the fuck I want. So I think that might save him his job, is that he has no control over what happens over the offense. And in that case, that could work. I mean, if they get a good enough guy as their offensive coordinator, I just don't understand if that's what you want to do. You're doing it because you don't want to look bad as an organization. Because why would you keep him at that point, other than be a statuette of, look how great things are? We have the same head coach still. I think it would be they would think it would be a sign of weakness that they fired Nick Sirianni after 3 consecutive years of making the playoffs. And it on paper it would, but if you watch the games, if you understand the situation of how extremely shit this offense is from a schematic standpoint, and how you're taking so much talent and putting it into nothing, I think it makes sense.
I'm with you. Thomas R. Peterson, always great catching up with you, my man. I always appreciate it. Also, good luck on the house. I know there's a lot of work there. A lot more than I got to do, that's for sure.
I'm heading straight into the drill charge now. I got to go pick up some concrete.
All right, good enough. Thomas R. Peterson, if you guys aren't following him, what the hell are you doing, Eagles fans? You got to follow this man for all your Eagles breakdowns, all your Eagles statistics, great analysis, a guru of the Philadelphia Eagles, Thomas R. Peterson. Thomas, thank you so much.
It was great catching up.
How great is he, man? Breaking it all down. I saw somebody say in the comments he breaks it down on YouTube. He absolutely does. You guys should check him out there. That's in his handle as well, if I'm not mistaken. Breaking the Birds. You can catch it on YouTube, so make sure you guys do that also. Always enjoy those conversations, always walk away learning something. And one of the things that I learned from him is, despite the change in defensive coordinator, you're seeing the exact same stuff. You might see a little bit more man coverage. You might see a little bit more of a rotation amongst the younger players, Eli Ricks, for instance. Keely Ringo comes to mind as well. But you're going to get that anyway, because Darius Slay was like, hey, I'm getting my knee scoped. Deuces. See you in the playoffs. Maybe. You're going to see him in the playoffs. So for me, that's something that is an unfortunate thing. You make that drastic a change in defensive coordinator, essentially, play caller, and you're still seeing a lot of the same stuff. What else is odd to me is how many times the Eagles will tell you, oh, no. Wait, this is the Eagles offense, or the Eagles defense. This isn't Matt Patricia's defense. There's a lot of Matt Patricia still in this defense. And also the terminology red flag went up to him, as it did for me when Hassan Reddick was breaking it down, saying, oh, no, it's different. Don't tell me it's not different when you change change coordinators here, because terminology changes. That can't be fun. That can't be easy if you're a member of this Eagles defense. Not even a little bit. Let me tell you about the game. You know it is fun. Going to games, going to concerts. You guys can do it all with the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app to your phone, ladies and gentlemen. Create an account and use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy for $20 off your first purchase. You want to go to the big comedy show, the theater? You want to go to a great concert? Sporting event as well. Game Time app. Download the Game Time app to your phone. Use promo code Farzy for $20 off your first purchase. And let's not forget about the Game Time guarantee, which is if you find a seat in the same section and row that you want and you find it for less, guess what? The Game Time app we'll discount it 100 to we'll give you 110% of the difference at the Game Time app. That's the Game Time guarantee. So download to your phone. Let the whole world open up to you when it comes to those big events that you want to go to, especially with last-minute ticket deals. And you can also buy tickets an hour after the event starts for huge, kajunga, mega huge savings from the Game Time app. Once again, download the Game Time app to your phone. Use promo code Farzy when you create an account, and you get $20 off your first purchase. Not too shabby. How about PHL Sports Nation? Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's phlsportsnation.com. And always, our friends at MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Looking to get in on all the action? mybookie.ag. Use promo code Farzy at mybookie.ag when you're looking to bet on your football playoffs, when you're looking to bet on hockey, basketball. How about this? Even TV shows, politics. mybookie.ag. Use promo code Farzy. Get up to $1,000 redeemable cash bonus when you use promo code Farzy at mybookie.ag. Let's get into the chat check. Oh, yes, by the way, but that was on me. I take full responsibility of not putting my internet in a better position to be clear for you guys. That was not on you. So, Miss Scoozy. I blame it on the DK, the Donkey Kong. That's what I'll blame it on. April, good morning. April, hello again, fans. Panthers fans are good. Oh, let's remember, April is down there in the Carolinas. Panthers fans are going to be big mad. Can't wait to have a front row seat to that. It's been a rough year for those Panthers. I got asked the question yesterday while I'm on this subject here, April, about when I was on with Dan Cilio. By the way, some breaking news. Geez, I can't. Adam Schefter and Mike Reese of ESPN putting it out there that the Patriots and Bill Belichick are expected to part ways later today. Adam Schefter, Bill Belichick, and the New England Patriots are expected to part ways today after a remarkable 24 years together, ending in an unmatched run in the NFL. Ending an unmatched run in NFL history that included 6 Super Bowl titles. League sources tell Schefter and Mike Reese. How about that? I don't think Bill Belichick is done coaching. I think he's going to go elsewhere. I got asked the question yesterday, what's the most attractive job right now in the NFL if you're a head coaching candidate? Raiders, Panthers, Chargers, Falcons, Washington, Tennessee, and Seattle. I mean, if you're a head coach, you want to know you have a quarterback. You have Justin Herbert in L.A. L.A. is not terrible. Carolina, you have a young quarterback that they've already invested in with a top pick. So that's a big question. Raiders, Washington, and don't give me that Sam Howell was top 6 in the league in passing yards. Is that what he ended up with at the end of the year? So yeah. That's an interesting thing. And now you can add the New England Patriots. Bob Kraft as an owner is going to pay, so that's good. That's good. Dan Quinn's up for coaching jobs here. Ben Johnson, Raheem Morris, Aaron Glenn, Mike McDonald. It looks like the Panthers, Chargers, Titans, and Commanders are all 4 of those teams are interested in Ben Johnson and Dan Quinn. Panthers, Chargers, Commanders, interested in Raheem Morris as well. Panthers are basically interested in everybody. To your point, you're gonna have a lot of names go through the Carolinas there. April, Dad says good morning. Jason A, what's going on? Sean Kilrain, what's popping? Sean Kilrain, Panthers can have Brian Johnson. Please do all this week. How about all this season? Where the hell you at? Yeah, make it happen. Jason, what's going on? Morning, my people. Wish NFL would wait till actual offseason. I agree. Takeem says, good morning, fellas and ladies. What's up, Takeem? Takeem, hopefully the Panthers hire this incompetent fool. He's not getting this job. Like, in all honesty, let's think about this. He's not getting this job. You're going to hire him after he inherited a runner-up in the MVP. He inherited a Super Bowl offense. He inherited this offensive line. And after 1 year of regression, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, this is the guy I want to be my head coach. There's no binder on the planet, i.e. Andy Reid when he got hired by the Eagles. There's no plan he can have that will make their head snap around fast enough to be like, oh, Brian Johnson's good? No, it's not going to happen. Eagles lose this game Monday night against the Buccaneers. I think the guarantee is if they lose, Brian Johnson's not back as the offense coordinator. I think that's the guarantee. If they get annihilated, I think it's a total clean house. Absolute total clean house of the coaching staff. One thing I do think the Panthers are going to do is they're going to be really interested to take that look at Alec Hallaby from the Eagles front office. But the thing that's interesting is I think Josh Harris is going to throw a bunch of money at him. So he might end up in Washington. He might end up in our division. What else do we have here? Forecast. If the forecast is rain down there Monday night, run the damn ball. How's that for Chiriani? Love it. That's hilarious. Yeah, somehow the defy the laws. Look, to beat the blitz, they're going to have to run the football. Simple as that. Sometimes you're going to run into it. Sometimes you're going to run right past it and get a 30-yard gain. It happened against the Giants when they ran the ball with Kenny Gainwell, and he got 32 yards, I want to say it was. Keep that coming. Fuji! What's up, Mike Fuji? How you doing? King Pooty TV, what's going on? Let's trade for McVay. Yeah, I'd love to see it happen. Someone is actually talking about Brian Johnson, Sean Gillespie. Yes, they are actually discussing bringing him in as a head coach. Mark, you're totally overestimating the Panthers. They are a dumpster fire with no leadership. People are calling for everyone's heads to roll. Well, that's why I think they are going to make a major play for Alec Hallaby, because he's going to be the guy that is supposedly stabilized everything. No. I got numbers to back up what I think, which is not always a bad thing. Sometimes you need that. Sean Gillespie, Chiriani. Sorry, I'm stealing this. Yeah, that is. Hold on. Make sure you credit Sean Kilrain. Boom. There it is. Black and white. Bottom of the screen. Make sure you credit Chiriani to Sean Kilrain. Philly Talk Podcast. What's going on, guys? Philly Mike, good morning, bro. Saying good morning to Philly Mike on the Philly Talk Podcast. What's up, Mike? Mike saying, what up, Jason? What up? Philly Mike, you're on my show next week. Let's party. I've been thinking about you, brother. I have. Great stuff as always from you. Got to get you back on the show. Workflow, you know what it is. What else do we got here? Hey, BR boo. What are we booing? Why are we booing? Rams game 2? Oh, Jason, you're the one that said this is the guy from YouTube. Yeah, it is. Takeem, Philadelphia's stepchildren this year are 6 or 7 win team. What? Iceberg Slim. Takeem Hilton, who is someone in the chat. Philadelphia's stepchildren this year are 6 or 7 win team. Think about all the face mask calls Bradbury got away with. Good Lord. Yeah, she's in Philadelphia. Got worst coaching in the division. Iceberg Slim. Yeah, think about that. Mike McCarthy actually had a good year with the Dallas Cowboys. Ron Rivera got fired. Brian Dable. Man, I would love to see Brian Dable with Jalen Hurts as an offense coordinator, or as a head coach. That would be pretty good. I think that'd be a good thing. April. This was another interesting point from Thomas. There's no way all the players crap the bed at the same time. Absolutely a coaching failure. I mean, if that's not the biggest indictment, I don't know what is. Great point. Jason, amen, dude. They shouldn't be this incompetent. King Pooty TV. Doesn't feel good that I called this coach pencil debacle before this season. Most of us sniffed that hire out from day one as a stupid move. I don't mind the hire as long as you give him responsibility. Like, make him the defensive coordinator. Don't have him waiting in the wings for Sean Desai to fail. Somehow analytics is telling the Eagles to keep calling the same plays and not run the ball, which hasn't worked. Yep. Rodney, what's going on, Rodney? We got to support regardless of the the crappy play. We have managed 11 wins somehow, magically. Joe Whip, coaching is a joke, clean house. All right, there we go. Optimistic. Roddy, you're optimistic. 0-0. Let's make a run. Good for you. I wish I could talk myself into it, but I can't. Dynamic Prodigy, what's going on? The playbook will open up in the playoffs. We had enough wins to get in. Played teams you may potentially play in the playoffs. You show all your plays on offense. Why show all your plays on offense? Okay, by that theory then, why are they running the Kenny Gainwell throw out of a tush push to Devontae Smith? Why are they showing that ahead of time? That doesn't make sense to me. At some point, you have to establish some sort of momentum, and that'd be a good thing. Kansas City in the same place. Yeah, but Kansas City's been to 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 years. And they won 2 of them. We know about one, obviously, from firsthand. Give Belichick whatever he wants, bring him here. Sean Gillespie, I am tempted, man. I am tempted to bring Bill Belichick here because you know he's running the show. He said in New England 2 days ago, the report was that he's willing to take less responsibility to stay on as a coach. I don't think so. I don't believe it. Let's see here. Farzi, why do I never see Jalen on the bench looking at replays? He sits there and completely avoids everyone. That's not what real leaders do in my book. What are your thoughts? That's interesting. I'm trying to think. I don't look for it. I'm probably the worst person to ask that, Amish. It's an interesting question, though. Or Amish, Dave. It's an interesting question. I'm generally speaking not looking at the sidelines. When something happens at the sidelines, I have to go back and look at it. Because if they're cutting to the sideline, that means a play is not happening, which means I'm probably making a note, getting ready for the next play, or I am rewinding something quickly to go watch a previous play, like seeing Landon Dickerson pull and make a block or something like that. So I'm the worst person to ask that. If that is the case, then yeah, that is odd. Maybe it's a coincidence, but I don't know. Panthers hire Dan Quinn and BJ. Yeah, let's make that happen. We need to hire Frank Reich for offensive coordinator, Wink for DC. Maybe Wink Martindale would want to come here as your defensive coordinator and stick it to the Giants. First play with Mariota says it all. Bubble screen that was picked off. That was true. That was pretty horrifying also. Manny, what's going on, Manny? BJ getting considered for another promotion is like the dude in your crew that has the least productivity and most injury recordable? Most injury recordable? When you know so many more people are worthy, it's insane. Yeah, he's not getting that job. Okay, Steven. Carolina, let's see how bad it is in Philly. Thanks, everybody in the chat. Wonderful, as per usual. Yeah, still not feeling great about the Eagles. Like I said, tomorrow we're going to talk to Dr. Joel Fish, sports psychiatrist, who's going to break it all down for us as far as the mentality of a slump and what is going on in the Eagles' heads right now. I'm going to ask him about the coaching change. I'm going to ask him about the philosophy on offense, what's getting in their way from a coach's standpoint, from a front office standpoint, and of course to a player standpoint. We'll get into all that. A couple other things in our morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. The Philadelphia 76ers unfortunately dropped their third in a row, 139-132 to the Atlanta Hawks in overtime. Tyrese Maxey fouled out, but with 43 minutes logged, he dropped 35 points. No Joel Embiid, as we knew going into it last night. Tobias Harris also eclipsed the 30-point game. He had 32 points with 10 rebounds. Nice little double-double for him. Maxey fouled out on a BS call that I hate in the NBA. When the offensive player initiates contact, I was a ref for 10 years, not in the NBA. How is that on the defensive player if the defensive player is not reaching in and just maintaining position and going with the offensive player? If the contact is initiated by the offensive player, how do they get the foul out of that? Let alone a sixth foul that takes away the Sixers' best player in Tyrese Maxey. Make it make sense. You can't. You can't make it make sense. Young, by the way, 28 points on the night. Only 2 of 8 from beyond the arc. 11 assists. Oh, wow. 3 players for the man, what was the total on the boards? Oh, only 55? Well, they're starting 5, logged the most minutes. 3 players for the Hawks finishing in double figures in rebounds. How about that? Anyway, they took the L. They're back at it tomorrow night. I believe they're home for tomorrow night's game. We'll see if Joel Embiid comes back for that one against the Kings. 7:30 tomorrow night. ESPN will also have that game. Flyers got a win for themselves. They got off the old Schneid. Flyers picked up a win in a shootout, which is fantastic to see. The Gauthier trade is still, well, Gauthier himself is still getting ripped. Just an unfortunate thing. Weird. I don't like him. Public enemy number 1. JD Drew comes to mind, obviously, with the Phillies back in the day. But yeah, the Flyers, they beat the Montreal Canadiens last night in a shootout. Also good to see that their latest addition, who came over in the Gauthier trade, was able to get his first assist as a Flyer. Jamie Drysdale came up with an assist. I believe it was to tie the game at 2-2 in the second period. I think that's when he helped light the lamp with the assist there. Good to see your goal scorer last night. Morgan Frost and Owen Tippett came up with goals in regulation for the Flyers. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow. Like I said, Dr. Joel Fish will be joining the program. Look forward to catching up with him. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow. This is the Farsi Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. And my thanks once again to Thomas R. Peterson. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. See you tomorrow. Bye.